or welcome back to the Tennessee Conservatives' Big 7 News Podcast, where we fill you guys in on the biggest news stories of the week. My name is Adelia Kirchner. I'm one of the writers here at the Tennessee Conservative, and I just want to give a quick shout out. I hope you guys have been enjoying our latest addition to the team, TTC reporter Olivia Lupia, who's actually been filling in on this podcast for Brandon Lewis over the last few months when there were times that he couldn't do it. Anyways, she does a fantastic job when she fills in on the Big 7. She does an amazing job when she does the Tennessee Conservatives segment on the Michael Yaffe radio show. All in all, just a real encouraging powerhouse of a woman. But speaking of, my point, if you have not checked out the interviews that we put up this week, you should go do that after you finish this video or you finish listening to this podcast episode. Anyways, Olivia was able to cover the Courage Under Fire event that took place in Nashville last weekend, and she got some quick interviews. She got some quick interviews with people like Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire. I'm sure you guys know who he is. Senator Marsha Blackburn, and also place kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, Harrison Butker. And you know what? Before you go, I'm not a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not going to watch that. Slow your roll. It's not about sports. It's about being a conservative. Go listen to what he has to say. Go listen to the questions Olivia asked him. And, enjoy. So be sure to check those videos out on our website or social media once you've gotten all caught up on your Tennessee conservative news. But before we get into our top news stories of the week, make sure to subscribe to our free daily e-newsletter. Just text NEWS to 423-205-5600. That is NEWS to 423-205-5600. You can also follow us on X, Truth, Getter, Gab, Rumble, and MeWe. Okay, I'm going to do the thing that Brandon does, because I can, and I'm going to throw these on the floor as we go along. Anyways, first story we've got here. Override of Governor Lee's first veto on the skids in the Senate. Senator Paul Rose, a Covington Republican who sponsored the bill that Lee vetoed in early May, said he will not pursue an override on the bill, expanding authority of the Board of Parole and Probation to deny inmates' requests. Rose said he spoke with the parole board and was assured it has the authority to deny based on the severity of the crime. Rose said, "Somebody else may pick it up, but I do not plan to. I don't plan to die on that hill. Not that I'm expecting to die, but it's just not one I want to fight." The West Tennessee lawmaker notified the Tennessee District Attorney's General Conference this week he would not seek to override the measure it brought to him for passage. Rose could hand over the measure to Republican Senator Brent Taylor of Shelby County, but Taylor said he wants to consult with the governor's office and the House sponsor Republican Representative Rick Scarborough of Oak Ridge before making a decision. Taylor indicated that Lee might have a different view of the bill than the legislature, which passed it with little, if any, debate. Scarborough, a former Clinton police chief in his first legislative term, said immediately after the governor's veto that he would work toward an override, which requires only a simple majority vote of both houses. But Senator Todd Gardenhire, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, predicted an override would fail if it does come before the Senate. Gardenhire added that it's not the right fight to take to the governor, even if he has only a year remaining in his term. For reference, this is about Senate Bill 455 / House Bill 527, so you can just type that into the search bar of our website, like, for example, HB 0527, and the articles that we've written on this legislation will come up. This, in case you were unaware, in case you haven't been keeping up with every single thing we put out, this is the governor's first ever veto. Governor Lee, since he, got in office in 2019, has never vetoed a bill passed by the Tennessee legislature. So this is the one that he chose to use his veto power on. I don't know what... I was surprised. We'll just put it that way. I was surprised. Normally, he just kind of either signs off or doesn't sign off on something that the legislature passes. This time, he was like, you know what? I'm going to use my veto power, and I'm going to say no. And technically, the legislature, when they come back into session next, which is probably gonna not be till January of 2026, they can just override it, right? And the governor doesn't get a say in whether it becomes law. But it looks like there's kind of a split there. Originally, the narrative from Representative Scarborough was that they were definitely going to override it, and now seems like there's been some conversations behind the scenes if the Senate sponsor no longer cares to back the bill. The AG's conference previously denounced Lee's veto, and when we reached out to Senator Brent Taylor after the original veto, this is the comment he gave us, okay? I just think it's funny, so I tell everybody that I explain this to. I give them the quote. "The governor's veto could derail our push to let the parole board lock down the baddest of the bad. But let not your heart be troubled. I will discuss the bill's next move with Senator Rose, and we will demonstrate that the General Assembly's got override swagger." The Memphis lawmaker stated that he would separate glitter on the floor before letting this be the final word on keeping violent criminals behind bars. So it looks like we've got a mix of things at play here, and we'll just have to see how this thing plays out. Next story. Governor Lee signs Savannah's law to create domestic violence persistent offender registry in Tennessee. Governor Bill Lee has signed legislation to enact Savannah's law, which essentially creates a registry of persistent domestic violence offenders within the state of Tennessee, set up similarly to the state's current sex offender registry. The new registry will be available for public inquiry online and will include the names, dates of birth, conviction dates, counties of conviction, and a current photograph of persistent offenders. The law was named after the late Savannah Puckett, a 22-year-old Robertson County Sheriff's deputy who was killed inside her own home back in 2022 by a man with a known track record of domestic assault. Puckett's killer, an estranged boyfriend, also suffocated her dog before setting her home on fire. Just let that sit with you for a second. After Puckett's death, her family discovered that the killer had previous domestic violence-related convictions. After not making it through the legislature last year, likely due to cost, this year the legislation passed through every single committee with no votes against it. The bill was passed with bipartisan unanimous votes from the Tennessee General Assembly, a 96-0 vote in the House on April 16th, and a 32-0 vote in the Senate on April 21st. Savannah's law goes into effect on January 1st, 2026. The law is not retroactive and will only apply to persons convicted of an offense on or after January 1st, 2026. And that does not apply to prior convictions, meaning like prior convictions that would put them on the registry for committing another conviction. Those prior convictions don't have to take place on or after January 1st, 2026. If they commit a domestic violence offense after this goes into effect, anything before January 1st, 2026, if it is a domestic violence charge, if they have a previous, then, on to the registry they go. Sounds like a good thing to me. Story number 3. A teacher and multiple students witnessed former DCS caseworker turned educator using abusive disciplinary tactics in elementary classroom. And the argument for homeschooling continues. A teacher and multiple students at a Nashville elementary school witnessed a former DCS caseworker turned educator using abusive disciplinary tactics in her first grade classroom. Oh boy. Mount View elementary school teacher Danielle Roan was placed on leave last month following allegations that she taped a 7-year-old child to a chair at the Antioch, Tennessee school. An investigation conducted by Metro Nashville Public Schools in conjunction with Metro Nashville Police Department not only substantiated the allegations regarding the improper restraining of the child, but found many more concerning incidents after interviewing Roan's students. Splendid. While MNPS recommended that Roan be terminated as her actions constitute a violation of MNPS board policies, she chose to resign instead of waiting for the termination process to be completed. It's almost like she knows what she was doing is wrong. Wow. That's crazy. Oh, good lord. Roan will be prohibited from working for the Metro Nashville District again. A report has also been submitted to the state. During the investigation, it was discovered that not only did Roan indeed tape her student to a chair, but that the April 24th incident was not the first time that she had done so. Students reported that Roan restrained this particular student in this manner on more than one occasion. Roan also taped the mouths of students. Like, how psychotic do you have to be to think that that is acceptable in the role of an educator? It's crazy enough that people do stuff like this to their own kids, but to do it at your job in front of other kids and two kids that aren't, like, people, there's evil in this world. Okay, anyways, she also had them run laps during recess and made them stand facing the wall. Roan, who holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in psychology from Middle Tennessee State University with a double major in mental health services and health, was employed by DCS from November 2020 until March of 2022. Prior to her time as a caseworker, Roan worked as a case manager in Donaldson, Tennessee, supporting individuals with developmental disabilities. Well, if her definition of supporting individuals with developmental disabilities is anything like her definition of educating children in a first grade classroom, I don't want to know what she was doing in that role. I mean, I'm just speculating. Like, what in the world? And before that, she worked as an early childhood teacher. Okay, this just gets better and better. She even worked a short stint as a mental health counselor at a residential treatment center in Nashville. I feel like maybe she is the one who needs the mental health counseling. More recently, Roan served on the National Board of Governors for the Human Rights Campaign, the largest LGBTQ political lobbying organization in the United States, as an outspoken advocate of trans ideology. There are really just some horrid, disgusting people in the world, and I don't say that lightly. Well, I do hope that she has her come to Jesus moment, as I hope everybody does. That woman should never be allowed around children, ever, again. Just, yeah. And for that matter, also never around people suffering mental health crises, because she is suffering one herself. I hope. That, or there's some serious demented stuff going on. Okay. Next one. Governor signs bill preventing voter registration for illegal immigrants and convicted felons. On Wednesday, May 21st, Governor Bill Lee signed into law a bill which will work to prevent voter registrations by illegal immigrants and convicted felons in the state. According to Majority Leader Representative William Lamberth, who carried the legislation in the House, the bill will establish major safeguards to strengthen election integrity in Tennessee by creating new verification systems and requiring visual distinctions on the face of photo IDs. The new law creates 3 primary directives to be accomplished by January 1st, 2028. 1, it requires the Secretary of State to work with local and state election officials to create a secure electronic portal for county election administrators to verify U.S. citizenship and voter eligibility. 2, it requires the Coordinator of Elections in collaboration with TBI, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, to create a similar portal to verify whether an individual is ineligible to vote due to a felony conviction. And then 3, it requires a visual distinction, such as a color or font on the face of a photo ID, to differentiate the class designation for the purpose of voting. The processes enacted by this legislation would theoretically ensure the Secretary of State's office will be able to adequately provide information as to who can and cannot register to vote before an individual arrives at the ballot box, and would prevent them from committing a crime by voting when they are not legally allowed. And so I was in committee when Lamberth was kind of pitching this bill a few times, and he was giving examples of like in his district there were several convicted felons who did not have the ability to vote technically, that had been taken away from them because of the felonies, right? And but they thought that enough time had passed that they were again eligible to vote, and they figured that if they registered to vote and they were not allowed to, that they wouldn't have been allowed to register, right? I feel like that would have been my thought process. I mean, especially if it's been like a certain amount of time and you're not exactly like in direct contact with somebody that you were in direct contact with at the beginning of your case. I don't know. I've never been in that situation, so I don't know who you would instinctively reach out to. But I would assume that if I'm allowed to vote, I'd be able to register and I'd get my voter registration card. And if I'm not allowed to vote, I would go register and then I would be told no or sent a letter saying no, and I would not get my registration, right? So apparently that's not the way it's been working in our state, and so hopefully this will fix that.
Guys, before I get into any of this, I'm just going to break down and tell you we're down 13% this year. Why aren't we down 13%? After doing this for 5 years, why aren't we growing? Well, the chief reason is this guy right here. I do this as a volunteer. I spun it up over 5 years ago just because of the COVID restrictions. Yet there's so much conservative work to do, I've continued to do it as a volunteer. And because I do it as a volunteer and I don't make any money doing it, it does not allow me to go get in the car and go really do what I should do, which is call on people and have events and all the kind of stuff that a good organization like this would normally do. But instead, you just got old BL, right? I can get out in the yard, I can ask you for money, and if one day the money dries up and if nobody's giving, then we'll just have to shut the thing down. Because I don't have enough time to go out and solicit like I'd really like to. I may not even have the time to put events on the calendar that I want to put on this year because I've just got so much going on with work. So if you could help me out, since I'm volunteering, and just send in some cash, do it to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support, or you can mail your checks to P.O. Box 625, Signal Mountain, Tennessee 37377.
Okay, next story is Chattanooga man headed to federal prison for transportation of illegal aliens. Wonderful. A Chattanooga man has been sentenced to federal prison after being convicted for participating in a human smuggling operation of illegal aliens that was discovered by Texas Border Control last year. Joseph Rutley was driving a tractor trailer near a border patrol checkpoint when he was stopped by agents. He told them he was on the way to Laredo with his empty trailer to look for a load. Agents were suspicious and noted that Rutley appeared nervous and was avoiding eye contact with them. He was then told to take his truck over for an X-ray scan. The scan of the trailer showed 22 individuals locked inside with no way of escaping. Agents determined that the individuals were from Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico. After being pressed by Homeland Security agents, Rutley admitted that he met a man through a friend who asked him to transport the load. He was not told what he was hauling, although he suspected that it was illegal because the man offered him $15,000 to haul it. He admitted that he later realized, based on the operations of the individuals he met, that he was probably transporting humans. Rutley pleaded guilty on February 18th. U.S. District Judge David Morales, I think is how you say it, sentenced Rutley to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Yeah, I feel like if somebody, the chances in this world, knowing that this is a thing that happens, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to give you like a crap ton of money to haul this tractor trailer from this place to this place, and the money I'm giving you, the amount is just kind of obscene, and it's so obscene that you assume it's illegal, maybe you should consider before accepting. Maybe you should go, you know, what are the several illegal things this could be? Obviously, it could be drugs. It could be illegal weapons. Okay? Yeah, obviously bad things, right? Okay, but you also have to take into consideration that human trafficking is a thing. And that the tractor trailer could be full of freaking humans. Like, I just, I feel like, you know, maybe just think it through a little bit harder and go, hey, there is like a 70, there's like a 25%, a 10%, whatever the chances of this being like literal human beings that you're hauling around. Like, I don't know. Just think about it a little bit more before you go, hey, this thing is illegal. I don't know exactly what type of illegal thing it is, but sure, I'll do it because money. Anyways, next up, we've got FBI task force heading to Memphis, Tennessee, the homicide capital of America. Isn't that so nice? There's a reason I don't live in Memphis. Sorry, Senator Taylor. Yeah. I'm a young lady. I'm scared. Anyways, let's see. FBI Director Kash Patel has announced that a violent crime task force is headed to Memphis. Patel called the city the homicide capital of America in a recent interview. How sweet. The move is welcomed by both Memphis Mayor Paul Young and Republican Senator Brent Taylor. Taylor said that he sometimes feels alone in fighting to make the city safer, but with Patel's focus on Memphis and the support of President Donald Trump's administration, the city is poised for a brighter future. In response to Patel's announcement, Mayor Young issued a statement that welcomed extra resources to fight crime. Patel said that 1,500 agents will be transferred from Washington, D.C. to posts across the county, but Memphis is to be prioritized. Memphis closed a field office for the FBI in the city last year and moved it to Nashville, but in light of Patel's plan, there is a possibility it will be reopened. And our final news story of the day, we have leftists pound on doors of Tennessee Capitol in protest of Andy Ogles during Stop the Invasion press conference. I'm not surprised. As you all know, I spent January through April roaming the halls of the Capitol building, and, you know, there was some illegal immigration bills this year, and, you know, protests against those illegal immigration bills. And, you know, so anyways, I'm not surprised. You're not surprised. Let's get into it. Over 300 leftist protesters showed up at the Tennessee Capitol on Monday to disrupt a Stop the Invasion press conference put on by Congressman Andy Ogles to call for immediate action to defend Tennessee communities from rising illegal alien crime and for government officials to support federal immigration enforcement. The list of Stop the Invasion speakers included Congressman Andy Ogles, Tennessee Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, Representatives Gino Bulso, Lee Reeves, Kip Capley, Metro Nashville Councilman Dave Benton, and a Nashville mother and victim of illegal alien gang violence, Deborah Newitz. And I guess supposedly she's either a Nashvilleian or she lives in Brentwood or same area, similar problems, different problems, same area. Anyways, as these scheduled speakers delivered their remarks inside the Capitol building, leftist protesters conducted their own program of speeches and chants from the Capitol steps right outside. Protesters harassed law enforcement, pounded on the windows of the Capitol building, and taunted those who dared to record their actions from inside the building, including Congressman Ogles, from what I saw in video footage. So, you know, that's it's always very mature. We appreciate it, right? During the press conference, Ogles addressed mid-state ICE operations and blatantly called out Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell for his pushback against a recent ICE effort in Nashville that resulted in almost 200 arrests. Ogles announced that the Department of Homeland Security would be conducting an investigation into the city mayor due to the remarks of Freddie O'Connell and the potential for aiding and abetting illegal immigration. Oops. Oh well. Guess you should, you know, support the law. In most cases. Anyways. The congressman added that he found it offensive that O'Connell would politicize the role of Metro's police department, requiring them to snitch on federal agents and that a city mayor would ask citizens to file complaints to the COB if a member of law enforcement is doing their job. Some of y'all might remember, I think it was in March of last year, the Tennessee Conservative did a Protect Tennessee's Borders rally on the steps of the Capitol building. And if I remember correctly, we did reach out to a variety of news outlets. Nobody showed up to cover that one. There was, I don't remember the number. I mean, you can, type it in a little search bar on our website and it'll say about how many people, like, there's an article in there about how the rally went. Anyways, but we had a decent amount of people show up for this Protect Tennessee's Borders rally, and there was no media coverage outside of our own. But every single time that these protesters show up to the Capitol and go on the Capitol steps and do their same little spiel in favor of just letting people pour across our borders, the media is all over it. The mainstream media is all over it. The Tennesseans all over it. The Tennessee Lookout's all over it. And you just gotta go, nobody's biased. So we'll cover people who show up in one capacity to say, we want illegal immigrants here. Humans aren't illegal. Jesus was an immigrant. Deport Andy Ogles. Deport Representative so-and-so. Deport Senator so-and-so. So we'll cover them every single time they come to the Capitol. Even if that is like literally on a weekly basis. Okay? We'll give them the same coverage every single time as if it's this brand new thing. As if they haven't brought the same signs every day for the last week. Okay? But then, like, the one, maybe two times that, you've actually got, some sort of rally or protest with people on the opposite side of things saying, hey, our lawmakers need to do something about this issue. Silence. It's not biased. Okay? It's not biased because they say it's not biased. Anyways, moving on. That's my little side rant about the protest being covered so thoroughly by the mainstream media. Because every time that there is one, I mean, there's slews of pictures and there's, all this hoopla. I almost said hoop-de-da. I don't think that's quite right. But, yeah, you get my point. Anyways, so I just think, maybe it should be a little evened out. Just my personal opinion. But that's all I got for today. If you want to read the full and complete rundown on any or all of our Big 7 stories of the week, check out the links in the description or head straight over to TennesseeConservativeNews.com. If you like what we're doing and want us to keep it up, please consider donating to the cause. All you have to do is, again, go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and hit that little red support button. And while you're on our website, you should also hit that green subscribe button to subscribe to our free weekday newsletter. That way, you get a nice little email every weekday that fills you in on our big news stories of the day. Also, don't forget to check out the Tennessee Conservative Podcast on your favorite platform and leave us a 5-star review, because if you don't like looking at my face, or you don't like looking at Brandon's face, or you don't like looking at Olivia's face, or Paula's face, or whatever good-looking person is doing the show, if you don't like doing that, then you're more than welcome to listen to your news on a regular podcast, because we put this exact show on there. We put all of our interviews on the podcast. So, or you just don't want to use all your data watching YouTube or Rumble or being on social media while you're driving. We don't want you distracted while you're driving. Go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just pull it up on there, and then you can listen to us without distracting yourself or, being repulsed, right? Okay, anyways, as always, your listenership is appreciated, your readership is appreciated, and now I'll leave you be so you can catch up on all those video interviews I was talking about. Also, I'm pretty sure if you scroll back just a little bit farther than you probably would if I didn't say something, there is one there's an interview that Brandon did with Gary Humble with Tennessee Stands a couple weeks ago. I watched that whole thing myself, and I shared it to a bunch of people myself because it was a very nice interview. It was very good, very informative. It was very interesting to hear both of them go back and forth because they are, they work together, but they are two very different people in their approaches, and so it is interesting to hear them kind of bouncing back off each other, so that's always good. So go watch that one. And also, Brandon went up to DC recently and interviewed some of our DC politicians, so you should also watch those. And yeah, I guess that's the end of my interview pitch. So you go make yourself another cup of coffee, okay? And, you know, you catch up on all your state news so that you have something of substance to discuss with your friends and family over the weekend. Trust me, it's well worth your time. Okay, if you've been keeping up with our recent interviews, you know what I want you to do? I want you to comment below, whether you're on Facebook or X or Rumble or whatever. Comment below this video and tell me which one of the interviews we've put out recently has been your favorite, okay? Because we do all of this, we put all this blood, sweat, and tears, and time, and energy, and money. Okay, we put all of this in to the Tennessee Conservative for you guys. And so I personally would love to hear or read, you know, what you guys think and what your favorite interview of late has been. Anyways, have a good rest of your Friday, and well, I don't know if I'll be back next week with another Big 7, but we'll be back next week with another Big 7. So, thank you guys for watching. Bye!